Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's Company Spotlight for today, September 23rd. We have with us once again CloudMD, Dr. Issam Hamza, who's back with us, our next super stock presenter, one of our top performing stocks of the last 2 months. Dr. Hamza, welcome back.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for having me again.
So, a lot of exciting things happening in the the telemedicine space. A lot of really great things happening with CloudMD just in the last few weeks. I think you were on like 2 weeks ago, was it? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a lot of audience questions. I see we're getting some questions coming in, so we're gonna kind of jump into that in just a little bit. I want to ask you a few questions first. So firstly, I just yesterday I saw the Motley Fool Canada. Which they have some pretty good analyst coverage. They had a story on CloudMD, and what kind of caught my attention was a positive story, obviously, but what caught my attention was they threw out a number of $10 trillion as the market size for virtual care. So I mean, they're saying that virtual care, next big thing, 10 trillion. Now, I don't know if they're saying Canadian dollars, but still, it's a real number. What are your kind of comments and thoughts on this kind of market size?
I can't say too much about that article and that number. I would say maybe they're referring to the worldwide kind of spending in the space. What we always talk about is the North American spending on healthcare is closer to about $4 trillion, I would say. And what happens is, historically, pre-COVID, it was mostly brick and mortar, hands-on, very inefficient type of delivery. And obviously post-COVID, the numbers have shifted considerably to virtual care. But I always talk about the long run, and the long run is that it's going to move from, close to 0% virtual delivery to a great majority will be virtual care delivery, either in triaging or complete taking care of the patient. More importantly, in that number, I think I would say to you, Jack, is that we need to understand what that number refers to when we talk about 3.5 trillion in the States. And I mentioned this on previous discussions, is that majority of that is spent on patients with chronic disease, right? So it's a big number, and the number is going up, but it's 90% of it is going towards patients with diabetes and heart disease and so on. So that's really the focus of our company.
Okay, so we have obviously also telemedicine again is in the news this week because of was it the Amwell deal, which I think what they raised, it's hot IPO. I think they raised about $1 billion. They have Google, as an investor, So I want to kind of get your thoughts on this, and also maybe kind of get ahead of the obvious questions we're going to have from the audience. Is how are you different than Amwell, then Teladoc, then So there's a lot of action in the space.
No, there is. I mean, there's a lot of action, but it's still a very small community. If you look at other types of fields and the size of the market, Amwell is a good company, and obviously they got the backing of Google with $100 million investment into it. I think they were supposed to price between $14 and $16. They priced at $18, and they're probably closer to $30 now after a few days of trading. They have different verticals, from the kiosks to the telehealth, direct consumer and various other carts and so on. The more interesting thing I would say to you is Google, right? So why did Google do this, right? And if you kind of look back at the history of Google, it kind of follows the same path of Amazon and some other ones coming into the space here, is that the future in terms of what they're going after is healthcare. And they understand that, and they've tried different things before. They had Google Health. Dr. Google is real. It's not very accurate. I mean, we talk about this in our announcement about the IMD Health acquisition. Dr. Google is about 3% accurate when people start typing in different symptoms and so on. They've tried to make it smarter over the years. They've employed doctors to try to look at what the results of patients were getting when they search Google to see if maybe they can get better results for the patient. They're trying to get into the healthcare space. The same as Amazon, right? Amazon with Amazon Care and Amazon Pharmacy and Health Navigator.
Nothing's going to replace a human doctor at the end of the day. I mean, that's.
They're not trying to replace human doctors. What they're trying to do is capture some of that revenue and those eyeballs. The patients and the doctors and the practitioners in this ecosystem are very valuable outside of the revenue. They're very important eyeballs for them, and they're trying to capture those eyeballs, let's say. They're very hard to get to as well. So they're trying to create kind of a way getting into that space, and they've tried different ways of doing it. And so that's interesting, again, why Google is doing it and why Amazon's doing it. And you'll see more and more of these kind of big companies coming into that space for sure.
Okay, so actually, so Google is involved with Amwell. Now, what's Amazon? What's their approach? What are they doing again? What's their?
So Amazon bought a company called PillPack years ago. What they do is they package medications and send it to you, so that you don't have to think about your morning dose, afternoon dose, and so on. And then they bought a virtual nurse, AI nurse kind of company called Health Navigator last year, and then they launched something called Amazon Care, which is telemedicine for their own employees initially as a test. And then they launched something called Amazon Pharmacy, where now, they're going to be able to fulfill prescriptions and deliver to you with your whatever chargers that you order and your, whatever you buy off of Amazon, exactly, groceries and stuff like that. So they're trying to add that one added value to it. And like I said, the patient eyeball is worth a different amount for them than the typical shopper. It's been a very hard one to get, and they're trying to get into that space for sure as well.
Okay, it's interesting because it's sort of like you're building out the the network of you have the clinics, you have the tech component, so you really have like this whole ecosystem, this whole solution, and I want to kind of get into that and kind of what we talked about as the whole person health. Now, I think kind of the obvious question, probably a lot of people are asking at this point, okay, you have Google entering the space, you have Amazon in the space. At some point, there's not really that many players in telemedicine space. It's really still a relatively small space. And could one of these guys really, decide to make a bid for CloudMD? Because even at your market cap is not that high for these guys. This would be like an appetizer. It's not even it's like a light snack.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. There's not that many players in the space. We're doing it in a very unique way in capturing that whole person care, because that is the future of healthcare. We know that other players like Amazon, like Teladoc, like Google are starting to move towards that as well. So they tend to do it through acquisitions, though. So they don't tend to grow organically, whether it's Teladoc, buying In Touch in Canada for $600 million, or merging with Livongo in the chronic disease space, or again with Amazon, like I said before, and so on. One thing you have to understand is that they don't grow organically typically. They tend to acquire companies in that space, and we are going to be a very unique company with a very large footprint in the next little while. I won't talk about kind of potential takeouts or anything like that, but you have to understand that we are building, like I said before, we're doing a marathon at a sprinter's pace, like I always say, but it's also consolidating very quickly in the space as well. So I wouldn't be surprised in the next year or 2 years that you see fewer and fewer players, that you get gobbled up by the bigger players.
No, it's an interesting point. Now, speaking to that,
I saw the comment about the stethoscope, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm traveling for work, and I didn't take my stethoscope with me. Yeah, I already got in trouble from Jack on that. Sorry.
And you're at an undisclosed location in Canada somewhere. Okay. So speaking of that potential acquisition, now you have a kind of an interesting approach, which you really haven't talked about it too much. You kind of, we talked around it, which is kind of this whole person approach.
Yeah.
So can you kind of maybe talk a little bit about that, because you do defer, your strategy is a little bit different than everybody else. Can you talk about that, like your kind of vision of this whole person approach to healthcare and how that kind of informs where the company is going?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can talk to you, as a doctor, why that's important, but more importantly, as the CEO of CloudMD, why this is important. Our end goal is not COVID, right? Like we don't talk about COVID much. We don't have it in our deck at all. We started this years ago, historically in my own set of clinics, and then in CloudMD as a public company, well before COVID. And so you have to understand that the end goal of this is not a quick buck. It's not, take advantage of the interest in telemedicine right now, because every shiny new object that's out there is doing telemedicine and getting a spike in their stock or whatever, and that's it. We're talking about the future of healthcare, right? And the future of healthcare and how it gets transformed, and the buy-in that you get to be sustainable, the buy-in you have to get from the patient, the doctor, the governments, as well, the health payers, the corporations, the insurance companies. You have to talk about how to use telemedicine to deliver better whole person care, which means that you as a patient don't just have diabetes. If you have diabetes, you have heart disease, most likely. You probably have high blood pressure. You're probably going to be on 8 medications. You might have some other things like chronic pain or nerve pain, and you might have some, anxiety or depression. You might be off of work, and so then you need help with getting back to work. So for rehab, that's whole person care. And to do that properly, you can't just see one sliver of it and say, yes, you need a prescription for your diabetes medication. Here you go. You have to say, what else do you need to get better? How can you be involved in your own care with wearables and exercise and seeing a dietitian and seeing an internist and seeing a cardiologist and the primary care doctor, and and a pharmacist, and how can they all work together as a team to provide you that care very efficiently? And how can we make it so simple for everybody and so intuitive for the doctor, for the specialist, for the patient, everybody, so that it's just seamless for them. That makes sense. That is the future of healthcare with what we're talking about. And when I say
the mental health aspect, also you have
mental health, huge. Yeah. It's a huge thing, absolutely, and that's why we did Snap Clarity. We brought on Karen Adams, who's a leader in this space. We brought on the right team and the right assets to eventually build. I mean, it's no secret what we're doing, really. I mean, we've kind of shown the market what we're doing is we're going to be one of the very few providers that can provide all whole health, basically, for that one patient, whether it's public, private, mental, and physical. That's kind of unheard of, right? And that's our long-term vision, right? And so, like I said, it's a marathon, and we are putting the right pieces together with the right team, and that's sustainable, not the episodic virtual walk-in model taking advantage of COVID right now.
Yeah, no, so it's very interesting. I think now anybody who's been watching the stock over the last, couple of months, they see you making these acquisitions, and they're kind of wondering like, what does this have to do? What is now everything I think is coming into focus. The pieces of the puzzle. And now is anybody else doing this whole person approach like the way you're doing it?
I'm not sure if they're saying it that way. I mean, like I said before, I wouldn't be surprised in any way that Teladoc's next purchase is a footprint on the ground. Without a doubt, over the next year, I would say, I wouldn't be surprised that they buy a company that has a string of clinics in all different jurisdictions and so on across North America. The reason for it is for them to capture true chronic disease, which is what they're going into. They need that footprint. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to be operators of brick and mortar historical clinics kind of thing. It'll be more of the triaging part of thing. Well, they'll use telehealth, to triage patients. And then if they need to be seen, they'll be seen in person. But to capture the full care and to provide best care for that patient and capture that whole revenue stream, I guess, which is what they're going after, they have to have that. And so they will go after that at some point too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's that the human, that physical aspect is critical. And even, we're finding even in the e-commerce space, it's kind of almost a similar type of approach. Even in the e-commerce space, Amazon has physical stores. They have Whole Foods. They have their own, what do they call the Amazon, whatever, Amazon stores all over. Everybody understands the need to have a physical presence. And I mean, obviously, there's nothing more human than a doctor. This is kind of an obvious thing that this is kind of
You
where
can't give tele vaccines, right? I mean,
so it's an interesting, and essentially what I guess where kind of, to me, it looks like where CloudMD is kind of, that's where everybody's going is going to go.
100%.
It's like that's where everybody's going to follow that puck, but you're already at
anybody who's going to survive, anybody who's going to survive long run will be moving to that space, the kind of thing. That's the end goal, I think, for everybody. The way they do it historically, though, from our experience, is that they do it through acquisitions. They don't tend to grow this organically. You're not going to see Teladoc, starting from scratch and opening up their own clinics or anything like that.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, you touched on sort of an area of chronic health, and I think, I think your U.S. focus kind of is geared around that. So just if you can just touch on, the approach to the U.S. market, and obviously you just closed on you just did what, $20 million. The upside, the financing for, was it 13? You actually got 20 plus million.
Yeah, we announced 13. Within a few hours, I think we had over 60 million in orders. So we had to kind of cut it off. It just said no more. We increased it to
$60 million in orders for the stock.
Within a couple hours, within a few hours,
Wow.
And then we closed it, and then we increased it to 18 with the over allotment. I think we got 20 million or something.
Wow. Wow. Okay. No, that's incredible. So
we're well funded. So the key thing, like I think what you're getting at, is we're extremely well funded. We have a strong pipeline of acquisitions we're looking at. They all make sense, and some people may not get it right away. For competitive reasons, we sometimes don't say everything. We don't say everything in the news release. We don't say everything on these broadcasts on purpose. Is that it is a competitive space, and we got to be careful not to tip our hat too much sometimes. And sometimes, especially on the U.S. side, where it is it's a bit interesting. It's a huge market, and I think we have an opportunity to grow very, very quickly here. So we are taking advantage of this time period.
Okay. So now, part of you've raised this capital, and kind of where I was going is, in terms of deploying this capital, are you going to, is the U.S. going to be a focus of some of that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the U.S. market, your approach is what? Is the chronic care? Can you talk about that, like, specifically?
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said before, again, it's no secret. The CDC mentions of the $3.5 trillion spent in healthcare in the U.S., 90% of it goes towards patients with chronic disease. And then on top of that, the patient numbers that have some form of chronic disease or chronic condition in the States is going up from, I think, 40%, 45%, and kind of increasing every year. So the numbers are going up, the care is going down, and part of it is the lack of access to care. And so we're saying we're not going to compete with Teladoc. We're not creating, a US-based episodic virtual platform for everybody to connect and see a doctor for sniffles, or for an antibiotic prescription or something. That's not what we're going after. What we're going after, because that's only 10% of the market, right, of the ecosystem, of the healthcare spending. And so what we're going after is the 90% in these underserviced areas. So what we're saying is, let's go to the areas that don't have great access to care, provide telemedicine to those patients, so that one whole person with diabetes now has access to everybody they need to see, from the dietitian to the pharmacist, to the primary care doctor, to the specialist, the cardiologist, endocrinologist, and so on. And using technology, finally provide them better care, and show the corporations, show the insurance companies, show the government that we're saving them money as well by providing better care, better outcomes. That's what we're talking about, and that's what we're going after.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you just like one last question, and then we're going to jump into the audience questions. So we're going to go into that in a second. So, can you talk about the IMD Health acquisition? That was kind of, I don't think that got too much attention. And can you kind of talk about that, explain how that fits into the overall picture?
Again, you're right. It probably didn't get enough attention because I think it's transformational. It really is incredibly important when you start talking about the future of healthcare delivery, especially with telehealth and the patient education. Remember, I told you the patient has to be engaged, right? Like, how do you how do you engage a patient so that they don't just give them a prescription, you're actually getting them to understand what's wrong with them, what they're on, why they're on it, how to get better on their own, and so on. That's called patient education, but that's very time consuming. And so what happens is that when you go to your doctor historically, right, what does your doctor do? He spends time, maybe, he or she spends time kind of telling you, I'm going to give you this is what you have, and you leave that room. When you leave that room, you only remembered about 20% of what he said, okay? By the time you get home, you only retained about 10% of what he or she said. So your kind of understanding of what's wrong with you has gone down from 100% to 20% to 10%, and that affects your outcome, right? Now, that's even better than the people who don't go see their doctor and start using Dr. Google, which is about 3% accuracy, and it actually causes more harm than benefit. And so it's very time consuming, it's very expensive to the healthcare system. And so patient education has been the holy grail kind of thing. How do you do this efficiently and so on? IMD is like the world leader in that space. They have peer-reviewed information from like the Mayo Clinic and actually licensed information and so on from all the different health associations and so on, that it's not a web crawl type of thing. So this is something where now, and I would love for everybody to try it out sometime. Maybe we'll have a demo day one day where a doctor can, or anybody really, even like physios and counselors and psychologists and so on, can actually educate patients in real time, either in person or virtually. And with a couple of clicks, it gets emailed to that patient as well, so that they have it at home in a secure format. They have it at home as well, so they don't have to go, what did he say, whatever. It's there for them. So it actually empowers them, gives them better outcomes as well. So what does that do? Why is that important? I told you those numbers based on people seeing doctors in person. Virtually, it's probably even lower, right? Is how much you're going to retain once we start talking to you virtually, and how much you can retain and everything else. So we need to make sure, legally and for liability reasons and just for the better outcomes, that we're actually educating you and you getting it. And so this tool is amazing. They have great partners around the world. Some of the biggest pharmas in the world as well provide some sponsored content as well. Like, a small piece of that educational part of it. They have, I think, 140 hospitals using their software, and I don't know how many clinics and how many doctors. 2,000 pharmacies. Yeah.
Can you talk about? I think in the news was sort of the user base. You kind of touched it. What's the size of the user base? Because that's very valuable. That whole network that they have.
Exactly. The cross-selling ability of what we offer and what they do is the one added aspect of it. Yeah. I think it's something like 2,000 pharmacies, and I can't remember how many physicians. I think 3,500 physicians or something, and it's about 10,000 users. In terms of eyeballs for patients, I think it's something like access to 7.5 million patients that have access to it. So the numbers are huge. They are growing internationally into the US, Mexico, Middle East, and so on. Multiple languages.
For now, they're mainly in Canada, right?
Most of it was in Canada initially, but they've expanded very rapidly recently outside of that. And the great thing about it, again, is that, again, you get the buy-in from everybody. So you're getting the buy-in from the patient, the doctors, the governments, the different associations, and so on, and even pharma as being part of this as well. So it's a great opportunity. You're going to see amazing stuff with the integration of what we're going to be doing with them, the cross-selling ability. And you're right, there's only so much you can write in a news release, but it's one of the more things I'm incredibly excited about. Okay.
No, it's definitely, I mean, how much value do you, because like patient education, I guess, like, I mean, from the patients, the people, I don't think they really understand how important that is. Maybe it's kind of the one of the like least well understood. It's kind of a relatively new idea, right? Patient education is not like something,
because people think, well, why do I need if I can just go to Google, right? And what we're going to be able to show you is that with an easier access than Google, you're going to get more trusted information that's peer-reviewed and has actually science behind it and so on. And your doctor is going to be comfortable with you using those resources. And it's free. It's free for the patient. It's free for the individual doctor. There's subscription-based SaaS revenue coming from clinics and bigger organizations. And then there's sponsorship money coming from pharmas for some sponsored content. And so there's really no reason that every patient around the world eventually will have access to the IMD platform.
Okay, so let's jump into some questions. We got a lot of questions. I hope we're gonna have time, and also we have another presenter after this. So let's kind of go into the questions. I'm gonna try to. Wow, we have like I think I don't know, we may have 200 questions here. All right, so let me start off with. Okay, here's okay. Oh, we got Spence coming in with the first question of one of probably many. So let's go. How are telemedicine companies determining what becomes an essential in-person visit?
I think what he's talking about is like the triaging aspect of it. So when does it change from, hey, this is all you need, to, hey, you should go see somebody in person? I think it comes down to the individual doctor and what they're comfortable with and their experience and everything else. I think there was a article that just came out in one of the journals saying that the diagnosis levels of a patient being seen virtually versus in person is equivocal. So they're actually providing just as good in terms of diagnosis and treatment options and so on virtually as in person, which is really important outcome of that study. I think what's important to understand, though, Spence, is that there will be a need for some brick and mortar, and you need to be able to refer patients sometimes to a footprint at some point. And the triaging aspect of it, though, is that everybody should go through triaging first, virtual triaging, and then the portion that needs to be seen will be seen. But no one should be just walking into a clinic. In the future, you're not going to get patients just walking into a clinic and saying, I'm here, I want to see a doctor, and they don't know why they're there.
Okay. Any deals?
No comment.
We've got a bunch of questions about NASDAQ, TSX.
Yeah. At the right time, if there's a need to uplist and expand our investor base, we will look at that.
Okay. We got a lot of people asking. The stock is down like a couple. What is it? Down 5%. Everybody's asking. Mm-hmm. Nobody's asking. What is going
that's
on.
Fine. Yeah. I mean, again, marathon. Look at the important parts of it. You don't want something going straight up either, because then it has to be built on fundamentals, and it has to be built on certain support and so on. So this is actually a healthy retracement, if that's what they're referring to.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? Contrary to what people say, that stocks don't only go up; they sometimes go down on the way up.
It's important to, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Graham is asking, who's educating and promoting CloudMD or the government? What's the pull? What's the?
Yeah, I think you're going to get different ways of doing it. You're seeing the government saying that telehealth is important in the future and so on. It depends on what your angle is. I mean, we don't believe in spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on patient acquisition. We will be spending, and we have spent, some money recently, and you'll see a lot of ads there. But the idea of trying to acquire every single patient's eyeballs to use CloudMD as a platform for the sniffles is not the main goal of what we're talking about. When we acquire a clinic, we're acquiring 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 patients in that one go, sometimes more. When we're acquiring 12 doctors, 15 doctors with different specialties and so on into a platform. That's much more profitable and more economical. But we will spend some money on direct consumer.
Okay, Spence with question number 2. How are you servicing nursing homes?
Yeah, I can't talk too much more about other verticals that we're offering or will be offering soon. But you can kind of look at our deck, and you can kind of see what we have from the platform. And then you look at the carts that we have, that cart you see with the stethoscope and the Bluetooth stethoscope and the otoscope and like all those things, basically, they come in a kit as well, in kind of a mobile kit. So, at some point, you're right. I mean, as patients decide to stay home more instead of going to nursing homes, home care is going to be really important. And I wouldn't be surprised that you start seeing the combination of virtual with a nurse being able to go to someone's home and connect them to the doctor.
Okay. Interesting question. Google, Amazon, do you see these guys, I guess, suppressing competition as they like to do?
If we're talking about like Google AdSense and so on, again, we're not competing with ML with the day-to-day episodic care in the States. So that's not really our competition. Will they compete with Teladoc and so on in that space? Maybe, but it's not really a concern to us at all. It's not. It's a different angle that we're going after.
Okay, we have Spence question number 3. Percentage increase virtual care, BC.
Yeah. So virtual care has been available. Telemedicine has been available in British Columbia for a long time. I think just under 10 years. We've had billing codes, extensive billing codes for all specialties in primary care for years and years and years. Obviously, COVID sped it up quite a bit so that people are actually using those codes for the first time. Since COVID, they've even expanded it even further, where it now mimics in-person care completely. Ontario is brand new to it. I mean, or relatively new. They've had a lot of limitations. They have a different system with doctors being paid salary versus episodic and so on. So they have a little bit more complexity. So they are behind us in, let's say, in British Columbia. But eventually, especially as the biggest province, they're going to see the value of that virtual care and efficiency, and so you're going to see more and more use of telemedicine and being pushed by the government.
Okay. I just missed the question. What about IoT? Do you see the question kind of where do you see a space for IoT inside of telemedicine?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a ton more devices and wearables and a lot of things kind of getting data. You saw the recent announcement with Apple now with the oximeter built into it and ECG. And soon you'll be able to get your sugar levels and your cholesterol levels through your Apple Watch and stuff. I mean, so yeah, it's going to get more and more information.
Okay.
Globally, yeah, we are, like I said, we're focusing on North America right now. Our expansion, we have interest from all over the world in different aspects of our company. We're open to different parts of it, but we have to understand too that we don't go in blindly to areas we don't understand. We believe in acquiring teams that are already successful on the ground in that space. And if you notice every single one of our acquisitions, we really talk about the team that's come on board and how successful they were already. So if the opportunity arises, we will talk about it. But our IMD acquisition will open up a more ability to expand.
Okay. Spence is asking, what are you doing to let doctors know about CloudMD?
Yeah, we have really good marketing right now, both to consumers as well as to doctors and clinics and practitioners and so on. So, we are growing very quickly on both our SaaS revenue, B2B side, as well as our B2C side.
Possibility of a partnership with Apple?
Yeah, that's where the wearables I just mentioned, basically, that the wearables are getting smarter and smarter. Our API we have an open API in our platform, so we'll be able to connect with a bunch of different wearables, bring in that rich data in one way, in one app where you can interact with it in every day, see charts and be able to share it with your team. So that's something we'll be unlocking over the next few quarters.
Are you in Alberta?
Stay tuned. We've mentioned before that Alberta is coming.
Okay. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? I guess questions about expansion in Ontario we have.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing strategy for next year, is that?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of marketing. Again, like I said, we have B2B marketing, we have B2C marketing. We have a great marketing team that's really kind of leaders in their space as well, and they're being very creative in different ways of getting the word out. I'm sure you guys are seeing CloudMD in so many different places now. Again, whether you like it or not, you're probably seeing that name pop up quite a bit.
Spence is asking, are you getting any part of that $40 million budget for healthcare?
Yeah, I can't comment too much about that, but it's definitely money is being spent in this space in both sides of the border. And we are, very well aware of that money and where it's going.
Updates on Mississippi.
We'll have more information on it relatively soon. The reason we're somewhat quiet sometimes about some of the things we do is that it's a very competitive space, and we're trying to move very, very quickly without tipping our hat sometimes too much. And so we want to go quickly from one clinic to many clinics in that geographical location.
Okay. We got a bunch of questions about TSX, NASDAQ, every time.
Same answer I mentioned earlier is that when we already qualify, but when we want to uplist, we will uplist to increase our investor base. Right now, we have a very strong, very smart investor base, and it's growing quite a bit, very much on the institutional side as well, on both sides of the border. When we need to, we'll expand that to a higher listing.
Okay. Interesting question. What do you prioritize? Expansion in Canada or US?
Yeah. The great thing about it is we don't have to prioritize. We have a great team, and that great team, every time we do an acquisition, we're acquiring not just the asset, but the team that's going to expand it in that territory for us. So we can run. We can chew gum basically and walk at the same time here. We will be expanding quickly across both sides.
Okay. So a couple questions before we wrap up. One of the things that, again, things that I don't think this got that much attention because it had so much huge news that may have overwhelmed some of these things, some of these announcements, is you've added some new people to your advisory board.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about some of these people and what it really means for NextTech going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that news release would have been probably about 30 pages long if we really went into all the details of all these different people and how successful they were. And I mean, some of these guys, these people are billionaires, have had extensive major wins in the space, whether it's M&A and exits and so on. I think what I want everybody to get from that is that we're building a great team. We have great people. Look at all the different people that we brought on from even the advisory board for sure, but Karen Adams and even from the Refunction Group and IMD and so on. These are leaders in what they do, and they're very important. To come out of that one, though, what I think people need to kind of read between the lines is that we're talking M&A, we're talking global leaders in M&A, we're talking about 5G and wireless, and the future of where telehealth is going will be 5G and wireless and so on. So it's really important to have really smart people in the space that have been very successful, very well connected on our side, and they are on our side now. They don't need to do this. They're not getting a paycheck out of this. So they just share the vision with us.
Okay. We got an interesting question here. Spence is asking, what prevents doctors from being overwhelmed by multiple platforms? Almost like, drivers with Uber and Lyft, and they have 3 different things.
I'm not sure what that means really, because if anything, it's actually empowered doctors to have a life. So we have doctors now that can not worry anymore about taking care of a business. They can just see patients when they need to see patients, their own patients, or some of our patients, and they can turn off and spend time with their kids, or before that, travel and spend vacation time. As a doctor, we are required by law to provide 24/7, 365 days. People don't know this, but we actually are supposed to be answering your phone call at 3 a.m. if you call us. And that's not great lifestyle when you have kids and family and everything else. What this provides is telemedicine, and companies like ours is the ability for doctors to know that they can turn off their phone at 5 or whatever. And there are the companies like ours providing continuity of care and a platform to provide full service and take care of their patients, and they don't have to worry about them.
Okay. We got an interesting question here. I guess he's asking, is your software able to scale?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Our software is built to scale. It has a kind of an open API, like I mentioned before. It's easy to integrate different platforms, but also we can have 2 doctors on it, or 2,000 doctors, or 200,000 doctors. It can scale quite quickly without any issues.
Okay. So we're going to do 2 more questions, and we're gonna go into Xphyto. So here we go. Actually, an interesting question, kind of touching upon the whole person approach.
We already have that. So the psychologists in rehab already. If you look at our Refunction edition, the 7 clinics, they already have counselors as well as the occupational therapists and physios and so on, and psychiatrists. Karen Adams, that's come on and is kind of a leader in that space. Snap Clarity, that will be closing soon, that is all about mental health and the ability to use proprietary software to connect you as a patient with one of 1,500 therapists across the country appropriately. I mean, that is something we already have for sure, and definitely a major focus for us.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to ask you two questions. We're going to wrap up. Key milestones. What are the key milestones coming up? You know, a lot of things happen. What should investors be looking forward to over the next? We're not even going to say 6 months. We'll just say the next.
How about 6 days? I mean, it's been busy for sure. Yeah. You know, that's a hard one, Jack. I would say again that think of this as a marathon. Think of whenever you invest in the space, what companies are going to come out of it at the end, and are going to have business plans that continue growing in that space and are attractive, either as a standalone company or as an attractive to be acquired. That's kind of what we're building, and you'll see a lot of acquisitions that fit that model that we've talked about. And again, you might have to read between the lines sometimes on these news releases, but you have to understand our mission statement and they will make sense. So I would say further acquisitions to complete our vision here, and eventually further agreements that confirm that we're on the right track.
Okay. One last question for the audience, then we'll wrap up. Privacy. What are you doing to ensure you have strong cybersecurity?
Yeah, we've always made this a major part of our company. We hired a security expert that came from a company that only serviced the U.S. military on basically security and cybersecurity and so on, and he leads that on our team. We brought on Patrick Lowe, and he's opened up an advisory board for our company. Patrick Lowe is kind of a leader in the space. His company, Privacy Horizons, is partnered with us and provides a lot of that input. So, you know, we take this very seriously, and we're not talking about just doing enough. We always talk about what's the future, like where should we be in 5 years, not even now. So let's do that now. So why wait 5 years to implement this security or that security protocols? We're really trying to look ahead and say, to provide full comfort to patients, we got to make sure that we are ahead of the game.
Okay, last question, which is our favorite. You know, top 3 reasons why investors should consider CloudMD's stock today.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, well funded. So we're well funded. We don't have a what they call a financing risk. So we can execute on all our plans. We've delivered. So, you know, when we say we're expanding quickly, historically, we've been expanding quickly. So we are, you know, growing very quickly. And thirdly, I think we have one of the best business plans out there that's sustainable in the long run. And again, like I said, in this space, think about long run.
Excellent. Well, on that note, Dr. Hamza, I want to thank you, and we look forward to hearing more from CloudMD in the coming weeks. I'm sure we will. We'll have you back on for the next live stream. Again, thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks. I'll have my stethoscope next time.
That's very important. That's part of the whole.
Yeah, I know. I know you already got me in trouble there.
Thank you again.
We'll take the line.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We're gonna be bringing on our next presenter, Xphyto and Hugh Rogers. We're just gonna wait for Hugh to come in here. You know, very exciting company in the kind of specialty pharma space. Hugh, can you hear me?
Hi there, Jack. I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, okay. I think we got a little bit of a delay. Just can you keep talking just to make sure we have.
One moment. How about now?
We're getting a delay. Keep talking. I just want to make sure.
I can hear you perfectly on my end. Am I coming in choppy or?
There's a bit of it's coming in a delay. So like basically, I can hear the sound about 10 seconds after you finish.
Okay, I'm not sure. Give me a second here. Sound was working pretty well when we kicked off.
Okay, it's getting okay. All right, stand by, everybody. We're gonna fix this. Just a little technical issue. You keep talking. I just make sure we have sound.
Yep. How am I now?
Slight delay, but we might be able. Let's just. It might go away in a second. But let's get the presentation up. If you can.
Sure. Let me share a screen here.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, stand by, everybody. You're gonna. This is gonna be very worthwhile. You're definitely gonna like what you're gonna see in a second. I don't see the screen yet. Okay. Okay, I see it now. And if you can just make that the full slide.
How are we doing there?
Perfect. Okay, give me just 1 second. I just need to add one thing over here. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me just make sure we have Xphyto. We'll get that working here. Okay. Second. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Actually, Hugh, we do. We have the spelling with a capital P, right?
That's right.
There we go.
Xphyto Therapeutics Corp.
Fix that right over there. Okay. Okay, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for standing by. This is definitely going to be worth your while here today. We have our next super stock presenter, Xphyto Therapeutics. Some of you kind of maybe have found out about the company in the last couple of weeks, but today you're going to get the real update on what's happening here. And again, for those of you who are new, we got a lot of new people in the audience. Our goal with the next Superstock live streams, of course, is to bring you companies which we believe have that 10x to 100x upside potential. As you've seen our previous presenter, CloudMD, that stock has been a triple since they first debuted on our live stream back in late July, or almost the first week of late July, August. And we had a number of winners, number of 10x, 20x winners in the last couple of months. So today we're going to find out if Xphyto is going to be our next 10 bagger. So check out the presentation from Hugh, and then ask your questions. Your questions are the key, and then decide for yourself if you believe Xphyto is our next 10 bagger. So with that said, Hugh, I'm going to get out of your way here, and I'm going to come back after you're done with some audience questions.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jack. So I'll move fairly quickly here and just hit the high levels, maybe 10 minutes, give people an introduction to what we're doing. Thanks a lot. So Xphyto Therapeutics Corp is trading on the CSC under the symbol XPHY and the OTC QB, the symbol XPHYF. And Xphyto Therapeutics was created to innovate and commercialize next generation drug delivery, diagnostic, and cannabis investment opportunities. So there's a lot going on in the company, and there is a tie-in. Most of it driven by our platform technologies for drug delivery, which also have been adapted to the delivery of biosensors for pathogens and for the delivery of cannabis-based extract medicine. So we're focused on precision transdermal and oral dissolvable dosage forms, rapid low-cost infectious disease screening tools, and clinical validation of cannabis-based medicines focused on European markets. So when it comes to transdermal and oral dissolvable drug dosage forms, we're developing let's say generic or hybrid generic formulas using our platform technologies for drug delivery. So this means more efficient dosing, more predictable dosing, ultimately more convenience for a patient. And in some cases, we're getting 5 to 10 times more efficiency in an oral dissolvable form versus, for example, oil-based applications, specifically in the cannabis-based medicine space. When it comes to diagnostic and screening tools, we're working on COVID-19, swine flu, avian flu, influenza A, as well as a number of oral health applications. And we're working both with lateral flow assays using enhanced RNA probes and proprietary biosensors. And those biosensors are delivered using our oral dissolvable drug delivery system. So as I said, there's a number of moving parts in the company. We have world-class drug delivery expertise. We acquired a German company, Vector Pharma TF GmbH, which has a world-class platform for thin film drug delivery that's both transdermal, so skin patches, and an ODF, or oral disintegrating sublingual dissolvable strips. They're in their former work prior to our acquisition, they worked almost exclusively for major pharma in the development stage. We have a disruptive diagnostic platform, again, looking at pandemic threats and dental health applications. We have a number of unique German licenses and innovating some very interesting and highly relevant products. So just to explain, Xphyto Therapeutics is a Canadian company with several partnerships and a number of subsidiaries in Germany. So we're really going to focus on 3A Diagnostics GmbH and Vector Pharma TF GmbH, both German companies. So with 3A Diagnostics, this is next generation pathogen screening tests. So we have a definitive development technology purchase and license agreement with 3A Diagnostics. We're working on our lead test is a COVID-19 saliva test. This is a lateral flow assay. I think a number of people are familiar with those. It's similar to a pregnancy test. These are rapid, low cost, disposable. They're easy to use, no additional equipment required. And we're targeting Q1 2021 for European commercial approval. We also have a pipeline of proprietary peptide-based oral biosensors. And as I mentioned, this includes influenza A, swine flu, avian flu, and a number of dental and oral health applications. So we're setting up, anticipating future need, and obviously remote, low-cost disposable tests. I think we've seen from the current pandemic situation, these are absolutely critical for population scale control of pandemics. And this 3A is also based in Germany, and significant funding from the German government for development of these tests. We are right now working on a evaluation stage of our COVID-19 saliva test using actual viral genome isolated from live virus. We should have results in the next 30 to 60 days. And following that will be finalization of our industrial design, ISO, the ISO audit planned for December 2020, and CE mark approval expected in Q1 2021. So that's pretty exciting. We're moving very quickly on that and focused on the European market. And here's a quick look at our diagnostic pipeline. I think given the current situation we're in with pandemics, the infectious disease segment of the rapid test market is growing very rapidly. I think there's a number of competitors in the space. However, very few have been able to generate acceptable sensitivity and specificity numbers. In fact, independent review of a number of commercial products on the market revealed an average sensitivity of less than 60%. So notwithstanding what is advertised by many products on the market, the sensitivity tends to be much, much lower. In fact, the highest sensitivity of any product that was tested in this third-party review was less than 80%. So again, that's contrary to what may be disclosed publicly by certain competitors. So it's definitely a major opportunity for a company that can deliver significant results, and we should have those available for the public in the next 30 to 60 days. So a major inflection point in value generation. So as you can see, we have a few different products: lateral flow assay, ODF, which is oral dissolvables, both biosensors and enhanced RNA probes. So it's an exciting portfolio, and driving these to market in next year, both the lateral flow assay and the peptide biosensor ODF products. So launch in Q1 for COVID-19 and Q4 next year for a number of additional products. Vector Pharma, which is really sort of the core of our company, it was 100% owned subsidiary, and they've been a leader for a number of decades in the design, testing, and manufacture of thin film drug delivery systems. So as I said, transdermal patches, these are for slow release of narcotics, and oral dissolvable films, otherwise sublingual or oral strips for immediate bioavailability. So this would be, for example, two products we have in our pipeline. With transdermal patch, we're working with a Parkinson's drug called ortigadine. This would typically release over 24 to 48 hours to keep a slow, steady level of the active pharmaceutical ingredient in the blood. Contrary to that, or I would say the interest in something like an ODF, for example, we have two products in our pipeline right now. One is a CBD base, so this is a cannabinoid based product, CBD, and the second being THC. These are for immediate release, and the advantage here is immediate bioavailability and predictable dosing. So the currently approved CBD medication, which is on the market, the average daily dosage is somewhere between 600 and 800 milligrams a day. With our product, we think we can get that down below 100, likely closer to 60 milligrams a day. So highly efficient and highly predictable. It's also extremely convenient. So for a parent who's trying to dose an oil-based medication into a child's mouth, for example, very difficult to get consistent results. You're dealing with the bioavailability issue of the oil, but also the dosing from parent to child, whereas our strips are much more predictable. They dissolve within 30 seconds and available in the bloodstream almost immediately. So as I mentioned earlier, this platform is also compatible with our 3A biosensors. So there's a diagnostic component to our drug delivery systems or platforms. Again, German-based, a number of narcotics licenses, allows us to do research in a number of fronts. We have programs, cannabinoid-based, buprenorphine, which is an anti-addiction medication, as well as traditional, let's say conventional fentanyl, hydromorphone, and such. So the global thin film market is really, we believe, a major future opportunity. So it's growing extremely quickly. It offers a lot of advantages over, let's say, pill-based tablets or oil-based delivery. And I think everyone understands how large the cannabis market is. I should mention we're focused exclusively on medical applications for cannabis, and in particular operating in the European Union and in Germany, where it is a medical-only market, but growing extremely quickly. So here are our three lead indications. They're essentially generic versions of approved APIs, and the indications being for Parkinson's, epilepsy, and a number of others for THC applications, particularly in pain. We have, and I really like to stress this is a platform technology, and there's a pipeline that we will be addressing as a stage 2. So as capacity is available and as we review these opportunities, the company, although small now, has an opportunity to participate in some enormous markets. I think you can imagine, everything you see on there, from THC, CBD, fentanyl, obviously pain medication. An example of the THC, CBD 1-to-1 antispasticity in MS patients. You can see down the list here, from Alzheimer's, local pain. Parkinson's. So we're participating in the neurology space or the central nervous system space. We're focused on, and this is very important, on already approved APIs or active pharmaceutical ingredients, and then reformulating using our proprietary platforms. So using a delivery mechanism that provides advantages to the existing systems. So I think this is really the core of what we're doing. We are reviewing other opportunities in the cannabis space, specifically in Europe, but it's really our testing and our drug delivery businesses that we're driving forward right now. And it's pretty exciting. We have a number of milestones in this space over the next 30 to 90 days, and it's a pretty exciting time for us. So Jack, that's really what I wanted to cover, is just introduce the company and touch on really the core here with 3A Diagnostics and Vector Pharma. And,
okay.
I wanted to field any questions before. I didn't want to wade too deep into.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's open up for some questions. You can hear me, yes?
I can, yes.
Okay, perfect. First question, Brian. Do you own any patents?
Yes, we have some patents related to manufacturing technology, as well as patents around the 3A's enhanced RNA probe system. We are in the process of reviewing patent applications on some of our other drug delivery formulas. So that's something we are actively involved in. I will say with our drug delivery systems, we're focused on already approved APIs. So this is a way for us to get into the market very quickly and to avoid the, let's say, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, the typical drug approval process. So what we're doing is using our drug delivery platforms, already existing approved APIs, whether it's a CBD or rotigidine, and then providing a product that's more efficient and more cost effective.
Okay. Next question we have is Tim asking how rapid is the result from saliva tests, and who administers these tests?
So they're designed to be self-administered. I think that's a key here, is that to make these tests effective, at least on a population scale, and these are screening tests. They're not designed to be definitive diagnosis. They would be, for example, employers, government agencies, airports. Anytime you're exposing people or they're at risk of being exposed to people who are infectious or highly infectious, let's say the super spreaders that are symptomatic, asymptomatic, or pre-symptomatic, we want to be able to administer them without a healthcare professional. So self-administered. We designed the test to provide results in less than 15 minutes. We are getting strong results in lab right now in less than 5 minutes. So we targeted less than 15 results to date, appear to be 5 minutes or less until the design is finalized. It's in a constant optimization process, but we are confident certainly in under 15 minutes, and I'm quite hopeful that it'll be less than 5 minutes.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Okay. People are shy today. All right, I'll jump in with some questions. I'll kind of, I think you've covered a lot of it. So I'll ask you what, again, the main thing is, everybody wants to know is what's in our audience anyway. They want to know, what's the news flow? What's going to make the stock go up? So I'll kind of, get into that. Like what do you have? What are the key milestones you have coming up for the next, 6 months from Xphyto?
Yeah, the next 6 months. So we have some pretty exciting news. I mean, everything from our COVID-19 lateral flow assay results. We have a number of programs in the drug development pipeline. So that would be rotigidine skin patches going to clinical evaluation. These are human clinical trials in Europe. In less than 30 days, we should have results by the end of the year, as well as CBD clinical trial planned for early next year, with results to follow within 30 to 60 days. So in a constant, with let's say 6+ programs underway right now, in development and clinical evaluation. The news flow will be pretty steady over the next 3 months.
Okay. Let's. I just realized. Actually, most of the market right now for Xphyto is actually the trading for the stock is in Germany.
That's right. So fairly thinly traded actually in North America, but a strong market in Europe. Usually trades between anywhere from 75 to 300,000 shares a day. We're a relatively small company, but we're just now introducing the story into North America and the US. Okay,
interesting. Yeah, because usually we have a lot of shareholders on these things. I'm thinking maybe you have a lot of German shareholders. Maybe they can, I'm sure they can speak English. I mean, they usually speak English, like Americans. But okay, so yeah, this is actually your first time on our live stream here in this format. So next time we'll probably have a lot more questions. I want to wrap up with the favorite question that we always ask. You probably heard in the last presentation, which is top 3 reasons why, in your opinion, investors should consider owning Xphyto stock today.
Right. I think the biggest reason is that we participate in three different sectors of the bioscience industry, and in each one of those sectors, we're in multi-billion-dollar industries with huge growth expected over the next 5 years. So you get to participate in each of these, and really in a scientifically driven innovation. It's what we do. So we're based on science. Our scientists are world-renowned, deep expertise in drug delivery and diagnostics, and this is something I think we can stand behind. And we have a number of innovative products coming to market over the next 12 to 24 months.
Okay, excellent. Well, Hugh, on that note, I want to thank you for sharing the story with us, and we'll look forward to seeing more of your news flow in the coming weeks, and having you back here probably at the sometime in mid-October.
Okay, thanks so much, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next live stream.
Thank you. Take care.